For 30 years of my career, I did the kind of work that makes you unelectable, or so the political insiders say. Voters said something else. I was in the dark, holed up in the control booth of a television studio in Philly's public access television station, getting ready to announce my candidacy for district attorney. At 56, I'd spent my career in court as a criminal defense and civil rights trial lawyer. I had tried and won a lot of cases. I got some justice for a lot of individuals, but that justice was never quite ideal. It was unbalanced, incomplete, and unsatisfactory. Even the wins showed me that the system needed to change. But as I tried case after case in the decades past, the system didn't change. It was only getting worse. Our city was one of the most jail-happy cities in the most incarcerated country in the world. Too many serious crimes went unsolved, especially when the victims were powerless. In one area of concentrated poverty in Philly, the solve rate for shootings was only 15%. And rather than being cared for and supported, too many victims were used for political purposes. Day after day, driving around Philadelphia, I saw for sale signs on too many of our public school buildings. For years, while visiting clients in custody and their families in their homes, I kept wondering why jails and prisons and new courthouses just kept growing like an unchecked tumor, while the things we all needed fell apart. The problem behind it all was the criminal justice system. We were coming together that day to change it. It was February 8th, 2017, only 98 days before the primary election, the only election that mattered in a one-party town like Philadelphia. The incumbent district attorney, Seth Williams, was in trouble. He was under federal investigation for improperly accepting gifts he didn't declare, possibly in exchange for special treatment in his handling of cases as DA. His potential indictment had drawn into the race 5 other candidates willing to challenge him. I knew most of them well, and as always in Philly district attorney races, the challengers were like the incumbent, predictable, conventional, connected. None of them was a real reformer, regardless of what they claimed. I was frustrated by the lack of change in the system, by the never-ending squandering of lives and resources. So, despite my dislike for politics, I decided I had to run for DA, at least as my own kind of protest. Yes, my team and I wanted to win. But more than that, we had to speak the truth as we saw it. At least our platform might move the conversation. I hadn't found the light switch yet in a room full of switches and controls. Sitting in darkness, I looked through the glass that separated the control room from the brightly lit black box studio. The studio was starting to fill up with my people, many of them activists I had defended for free over the years. My people looked powerless to others. They were anything but powerless. They had fought AIDS, fought for disability rights, were disabled themselves, gave out clean needles under elevated train tracks, did pirate radio, were advocates for homeless people or were homeless themselves, said their Black lives mattered, worked to end global warming, were queer, camped out with Occupy, fought pollution, opposed casinos, wanted peace, were sex workers fighting to be safe, were addicted to drugs and seeking treatment, were clergy who shut down dirty gun shops with hymns. Or they weren't activists at all, but they cared deeply and found ways to support the ones risking arrest. I admired them all for having already changed the world with their selfless pursuit of justice and for aspiring to do more. At some point, I had begun to refer to the activists and organizers I usually represented for free, or to people in their worlds I respected who provided support for their work, as my people. I used the phrase to mean they were doing God's work, fighting the good fight, willing to sacrifice so that others would be okay. My people and I weren't the same. I didn't control or possess them any more than they possessed me when I did their legal work for free. But we were a team of people who wanted the same things. We wanted fairness, equality, freedom, the protection we deserved from our government rather than its contempt, justice for marginalized people. We liked to knock down bullies and to speak about it as the Constitution mandated we had the freedom to do.